going?
Yep.
Is that really it? We don't need to wait? All right.
I know there's one more thing that probably they would like to know.
Mm-hmm.
It's about the grid system that you just show us, the curtain wall, and everything related to that. How can we change the grid? Because it's rectangular grid, but many times we ask them, why don't you go for a triangular grid? That makes easier for them to attach it to different shapes that are not boxes or prismatic. So it is a little bit more in the lines of what you were explaining about the mass. If you start doing masses that have irregular shapes,
Right.
maybe you can actually put some stuff that is triangular grid. For that makes a lot of sense to have a rectangular grid, just a plane. But imagine having a mass that is kind of curvy.
There is a way to do it.
All right.
So,
maybe with a curtain system, I don't know, have it dry doesn't want you. I wonder about that one, the curtain system. That. Or do you have to make a family? Or the grid?
That's why a mass, which we're not really getting
Yes.
into, but
I know. I know. Many times we ask them to do something more than the box, and they try to do that with a regular quadrangular grid.
right.
And we say, well, you could be better off with your triangular grid because then you have the possibility to have all your faces flat, even though it curves in one or two into yeah. That probably also fits well with a quadrangular grid, but if it is double curvature mass, then probably you want to have a triangular.
Where is that?
Yeah, it's food for some.
Yeah, there's I'll have to see if I can find it.
Sure.
We good? I'll touch on that this afternoon if I can find it. Right, is everyone ready? Does anyone have any other questions before we get started again? So the next little bit I want to get into is on looking at creating some section views and elevation views and call-out views and looking at creating some 3D views and that kind of stuff. So we'll start kind of with some real basic stuff. And this is my sample project, and it's got all kinds of sections cut, but we'll put some new ones in. So here on the view ribbon, we've got a section tool, and I think you've seen me do this a couple times already. We pick on that, and we just pick the two ends of the section where we want to draw it, and it's going to cut that section through our model. And if we double pick on it, or we can right pick and go to the view, and there's our section through our model. Okay, and there's maybe some cleanup we need to do that, but it gets us there. So few controls to the graphics on the section and plan. Again, there's a bunch of things that are blue here that we can pick on and control. For starters, at both ends we've got these little cycle arrows here, and this will just cycle through what the head at both ends look like. So if we want the call out at one end and just a tail at the other end, or if we just want a line, or whatever the case may be, however we want our graphics to look for the documents we're putting together. Okay. The other control here is this little break line, this gap line. So I can pick that. My section's still going to cut all the way through. It's just going to break those graphics of that section line. Okay. Pick it again. It puts it back together. Okay. The other line here, or controls here, I think you can see up on the screen, is this light blue dash and these push-pull arrows on the sides. That controls the width and the depth of the section. Okay, so if I push and pull these in or out and go to that section view, it controls that crop region there. And if I pick this one here that controls the depth and really narrow that up, it controls how much in the background that I see. Okay, so that's creating a section. All right. Elevations are very similar. Here on our view ribbon, we've got an elevation tool. And we pick on that, and when the elevation tool will automatically try and point at a wall. So you can see as I move this thing around inside the building, it changes which way it points. So you get it pointing the way you want. And pick that. Actually, let's go ahead and pick an interior elevation. Might be a little more interesting. So we can go ahead and pick in here, and if I pick and it's not pointing the direction I want, or if I want to elevate more views of that particular space, when I pick that, I've got I can just pick these check boxes, and it'll give me multiple elevations. Okay. So when I click the arrowhead, it'll take me to that view, which that's a little more interesting. So there's my elevation view of that model, and you can see when I select this, it gives me this blue line here. Okay, that's where the elevation is being cut. Okay, so if I want to change that location, I can push and pull that. I've got the same depth control here, so if I'm doing an exterior elevation, I can control that and just drag the ends of these lines to control the widths of that elevation. To generate some call outs, if you want to do, enlarge a plan area, or if you've got a part of a section or detail that you want to do a call out, an enlarged view of, you've got a call out tool here, and it lets us pick an area that creates that call out detail around there. Again, we can drag on these nodes and move this thing around, and it will create a call out of that particular area. And this graphic here on our plan actually controls the crop of that detailed view. So if I pull this in tighter and go to this view, you'll see it's pulled that crop in a little tighter. Let's go back.
So is that used pretty much for when you want to call attention to some specific detail that's different?
Right. If you want to do, a detail where, the two different elements come together, or the corner of something, or if you want to enlarge a plan area, if there's a particular plan area that you want to see in more detail, you could use that call out tool. Or we'll go to nice. Hopefully it comes back. Okay, great.
Is this self-backup or auto-backup as you're going?
There is a good question, since I just had a little crash. Get back to where I was. In the settings, if we go into the settings under options here, there is on the general tab, there's a save reminder interval.
Okay.
By default, it's set to 30 minutes. So every 30 minutes, it's going to pop up and ask me to save.
Okay.
It doesn't just automatically save. It's going to ask me if I want to save.
Okay.
If I cancel it, I'm on my own. Just turn this off. Okay. So let's look at this section here. So, and look at some of the controls that we have in this section. So I could, I drew those other call outs in plan. If I wanted to detail this section's drawn at 1 inch equals a foot. If I need a more detailed view, I could put a call out on here. Oops. And do a more detailed, oops. Dang it, I want to do that, draw a higher detail at a larger scale of that particular condition. Okay. A few other view controls here. We've got every view in Revit has these two in the properties, these two crop controls, actually 3 crop controls. So slide this over. We can turn the crop on and off, and that's what this solid line around the boundary is the crop region. Okay, we can turn the actual visibility of that crop region on and off. So I can keep this section cropped, but turn that line off. Now there's an option to when you print to not print the crop region, so it's really, if you want to see it or not see it when you're working, it's really up to you. Then there is also a annotation crop, which right now is turned off, but I'll go ahead and click that on, and you'll see when I click this crop region, we get this second outline crop here, and any annotations that fall outside of that annotation crop will be cropped off. So if you're fitting views on a sheet, that's a way to control what's in that space that you have available on the sheet. Okay. And those are consistent. It's the same. If I go to this detail view, I've got the same crop controls here. If I go to if I can get into an elevation view, I've got the same crop controls there. Okay. About So all of these views end up over in our project browser in different sections based on their type. So you can see we've got some building elevations, interior elevations, building sections, wall sections, based on the type when I pick what kind of section that I want. Okay. So creating some 3D views. I can do that up here in my quick access toolbar or in my view ribbon. I've got tools to create some 3D views. And again, this little doghouse that we get in both places takes me to a default 3D view. Okay. And what I mean by default is it's the name it's going to give it is way down here at the bottom. It's 3D in brackets. Okay. If I want to change this view a little bit and rename this, so I can call this, you know, oops. Whatever I want to call it. If I hit the doghouse again, it's going to give me another 3D view in brackets. Okay, and I can just keep doing that, as many of those as I want to create. Now these are isometric views, so it's not a camera perspective view. It's just a straight isometric parallel line view. Okay. To create a camera view, I like to start in a floor plan because it's easier to see what you're doing. Okay. Create a camera view. In either place we've got a drop down to create a camera view, and we start by picking where we're standing at with our camera. So if I'm standing here, and then we pick the direction we're looking towards with our camera, and we pick there, and it's going to create that camera view. Okay. A few controls that you have over this. You can select down here in the properties for this view. You can plug in what elevation you're at, what elevation you're looking towards. So by default, it's going to put it 5'6" above the level that you were at. You can change that there if you've got a specific value you want to plug in. You can push and pull on this crop region here. So if I pick this crop and start to push and pull the extents, it's gonna change that crop region a little bit. Okay. I also have this tool up here to size it. So you can see as I start to pull this out, your view's gonna get distorted. It's gonna get kind of a fisheye look. If we need a specific size image, we can change that image here, and we can either change the field of view, or we can scale it. So if we know we want this image to be 18 inches wide, we can pick that, and it's just going to scale the entire view to fill that space. Okay. We've got the same view controls in this camera view that we have when we're working in an isometric view. So I can hold my shift and spin around with my mouse there. I can come back into this view, hold my shift, and spin around with my mouse here as well to get a little different angle or get the look that I'm after. Okay. Any questions on that? Okay. When I'm working in 3D, I've got another crop tool that I can use. Okay. Well, let's do this first. So in a 3D view, I've got this view cube control up here that I can use, and I can grab this and spin this around if I want, or I can mouse over sections of this cube to change my view. So if I want to look at a top view, I can pick the top and it'll spin it around. If I want an elevation, I can pick on one of those arrows, or I will look from the corner down. I can pick that. So that's an easy way to spin around to some presets. Okay. The crop view in 3D, we've got the same crops that we had looking at our 2D views, but we also have this section box down here, okay? And the section box is kind of a 3D crop tool. So when I turn that on, you get that section box that, as a starting point, it kind of goes to the limits of your model, right? We can grab that, and we've got controls to start to push and pull that a little bit. So we can pull this up, we can spin this around here, and push this end in, and start to get a section through our building. And if we want to spin this to the top and be a little more, see what we're cutting a little more, be a little more precise with it, we can do that and cut through there. And spin that around, and then we've got a section cut through our building. Okay. Same thing in a camera view. Okay. So let me go back to the plan, see if I can make this work. So I can set up a camera view here, and turn on my section box, which is now kind of in the middle of it, and start to spin this thing around. It's kind of can be a little difficult to navigate, but I can push and pull that thing in my 3D view, in my section, to start to get kind of a section perspective through my building. Oops. And it's sometimes hard to grab those controls. Sometimes hard to see the controls. It's that one. That's that one. Push it through. So now I've got a little bit more of a kind of a section perspective through that part of the building. Okay. Everyone follow that? Because I know your professors are going to ask you to do that, right? It's a good way to communicate a design and how a space works. Couple shortcuts. That's kind of how all the individual tools are working. A couple shortcuts to get you there, maybe a little quicker. So we've got let's look at it a couple different ways. We've got this section through this little part of our building here, and this section is called detail 8. Okay, so we can start with a default 3D view. Let's actually name this one. Let's start with a default 3D view. So here's our default view. Okay, if I right click over this view cube, it pops up a menu for me. About halfway down the menu, there's this orient to view menu, and I can fly this out. And what was that one called? Detail 2, detail 8. Can't remember what it was called now. It was detail 3. That's fine. So I can pick a section or elevation or another view in my project that I already have, whether it be a floor plan, an elevation, a section, even another 3D view, and orient this view to that view. And not only does it change the view location, but it turns on and orients that scope box to the limits of that other view. So you can see it's turned this and oriented this to that whatever section it was that I picked, but I'm still in a 3D view. I can spin this thing around, and now I've got kind of a 3D section that I can work with. Okay, same thing with a camera view. Okay, so let's rename this one. Rename this one. Okay. If I come in here to my floor plan and create my camera view, okay, so there's my camera view, and what's my section through here? Okay, it's view 3. So I can right click on this, orient to view, section, section 3, I think it was. I don't think that's right. View 3. Orient to view, sections, view 3. Okay. It's turned my, should have turned my crop on. If that's not working the way it should. Well, okay, that's not working the way it should. So the best way to work with it in that 3D, you know, if you've got this camera view, you can select this section box, and what I'm doing on my keyboard is holding control and hitting tab, and it will cycle through to the other views. And you can see, even though that section box doesn't apply to this view, it since I have it selected, it's still showing it. So I can toggle through till I get to, you know, a floor plan view. There's a floor plan view that shows me where that section box is, and I can push and pull that thing there to get it to cut where I want it to cut. And you can see if I pull this in here and toggle back over to my section perspective. Yeah.
I think I just missed it when you said this, but how do you save the view to get it on the project browser?
Okay. So if I create an isometric view, default 3D view, when I pick this, when I pick the little house, it's going to give me the one in the brackets. Okay. If I right click and rename it, okay, I can give it a name. Okay, because the next time, whatever I want to call it, the next time I click on that default 3D view, it's going to give me another one with the brackets.
So it just automatically breaks it up.
Right. Okay. When I,
So you exit those topics,
what's that?
if you rename it, it keeps it.
It's in the project, and when you next time you hit save, it's going to save to your project. Okay. It's a good idea. So when I create a camera view, okay. So when I'm in here and I create a camera view, okay, by default, you know, Revit wants to give it a name, okay? So it's going to give it a name, and since it doesn't know what you want to name it, and this is true for a lot of things, the view name here is 3D View 50, okay? And if I look down this list, you know, in my sample project, you know, there's all these 3D views. Good practice, especially if you're working with a group of people. Rename that. Give it a name that means something. You know, next week after a 3-day weekend, you're not going to remember what 3D View 50 is, let alone 2 months from now. So give those a name. That's true for 3D views, section views, elevation views, anything. Revit has got default names that it will assign those things, but good practice to rename them so you can.
As soon as you create like a camera view or a section view, it automatically gives it a 3D view heading.
Right.
So if you wanna, and then if you wanna just delete one of these, just go ahead and delete it.
Yep. If I can just delete it, now it's gone. Any other questions? Okay. Look at the, we've got some visual styles here, some controls over how this looks, and we talked about it a little bit earlier, but it's, we can get to it either in the view properties, not there. Here in the graphic display options, we can change the visual style there, or down here in our drawing control, the second little box over will bring up the menu, and I'll just toggle through these so you can kind of get a feel for what they are. Starting at the top, the wireframe is exactly what it sounds like. It's a wireframe of the building, so it's just all the edges of all the geometry in the building. Okay. Hidden line is just a black and white hidden line view, so the shading you're getting there is just the way it's displaying the surface patterns on those particular parts of the model. Shaded will give you colors based on that material. So remember, we looked at a little bit at the material on the ceiling earlier. So if I grab this wall and get into the structure, and we can see we've got wood siding here, and we'll get into the material library. Here's our wood siding. Here's that tan color. That's where that color that you're seeing there is coming from. Okay. When you're in this shaded mode, Revit does a little bit of shade and shadow effect to help the 3D read a little bit, which is why you're getting, you know, this area back here is a little darker and these are a little lighter. Kind of helps the 3D read a little bit. Some cases you don't necessarily want that, so there's this consistent colors option here that takes that shade and shadow effect out, so you can see the colors are a little flatter there. Then we've got the next two are kind of rendered views. Realistic will look at the render material settings and display that so you can see. Here we'll zoom in on this, and you got this kind of wood siding, which if we look at this wall again, drill down into that material. Here's our wood siding, and this is, we just looked at the graphics tab earlier. I'm going to click over to the appearance tab, which is where the render material is defined. So here's that, the image that it's using if we were to create a rendering that it would use for that siding. And with this visual style, it's not creating a full rendering, but it's giving you an idea of what that looks like. Okay. The ray trace view here, it will progressively render this. So the longer I let it sit here, the more realistic rendered view I'm going to get. And I can work in this view if I want to. You can see it's got a little bit more of a rendered look there, and until I hit stop, and then it will stop that process. Yeah.
Is there a sun, like a time of year sun
Mhm.
kind of thing?
Mm-hmm. So in the view properties, under the graphic display options, where is it? Shadows. Yeah. So in the graphic display options for the view, we've got a section for lighting. Okay, and under that there's a sun setting. So we can set this based on our actual physical location. So we come in here and put in there we go. Put in the actual location. We can put the date and time in. And it will give us the sun based on that, on the weather data for that specific location. Okay. We can control the intensity of the sun and the shadows here. So let's back up a step. I guess this view is as good as any. So getting back into that graphic display options dialog, there's a section for shadows. Okay, so we can check to cast shadows, and that it'll be based on those lighting settings. Okay, we also have a control for ambient shadows, which is going to give some of that ambient bounced reflected light. Doesn't really read in this view, but and all of that is based on the sun setting locations. Okay, we also have control here to control the intensity of the sun and the shadows and that ambient light. So if we want, my dialogue is too big for my screen. There we go. Can apply that. So you can see how that's much brighter highlights, much darker shadows. That's a little more balanced, maybe. Okay. Also, in this graphic display option dialog, there is an option for a background. So we can use an image if we've got a nice picture of the sky we want to use. We can use that. We can have Revit kind of generate a sky for us. So let's see what that does. I think it will. What was the setting for? Okay. Or we can use a gradient, which will just go from, gives you a sky color and a ground color, and just kind of goes on a gradient between there. So you know, start to get a little better looking graphics than just that hidden line model out of here. And this is, you know, any of these views that we are working with, all these, we can use these same tools. So, you know, that section perspective view, wherever that went to. Whatever I did with it. We've got the same graphic display options that we can work with there. Okay. Something new in 2015, and I've kind of read, you know, it's something that it's been on different wish lists for a number of years, and then as soon as Autodesk puts it in, everyone is kind of complains that why did they spend time to do that, but that's whatever. So there's, if you've got 2015, in the graphic display options, there's this sketchy line option that you can use now. So if we enable that, we've got two controls, jitter and extension. Jitter kind of controls how wavy the lines are. Let me zoom in a little bit so you can see that. So jitter controls how much of this, how shaky your hand was, I guess. And then the extension controls how long these tails are. That's kind of proportional to how long the line is. So there's just a few, you know, tools that we'll look at rendering this afternoon a little bit in some of those tools, but you know, I think you can, with a little work, you can get some decent looking graphics without even going to rendering. Any questions on any of that? Did you have a question, or?
Can you illustrate how you make that wall, that side
Oh,
wall?
sure. Sure. Right. So we've got this wall here that does we've got this wall here that does a couple different things. It's attached to this roof, and then it kind of steps around this window and does that. So, you know, attaching to the roof we looked at earlier, that we just attach it to the roof, right? Start a new project. So to change the shape of the wall, you know, if we haven't, let me put a roof on here. I think that'll just for, that's fine. slope. Okay, so we've kind of got that condition, and we just attach that wall to that roof. Now, if we want to, you know, we can put walls or put windows or doors in this and put openings in it, but sometimes we want to change the profile of the wall, okay? So we can, when we select that wall, we can hit edit profile up here, and it's going to warn me that it's going to remove this attachment, which that's fine. I want to do something a little different with it, okay? So by default, it gives me the wall that I originally drew, okay? That whatever height, this 20 feet, that's where that is. I've got the same sketch tools here that we've looked at with some of our other tools, and I can start to use some of those. You know, say I want to follow that roof there, I'm going to go ahead and lock that, and then over here I want this wall, you know, to do whatever shape it may be. And again, this is a closed loop kind of situation, so I can trim that up. Go ahead and unjoin them. So there is my wall that follows whatever shape that I want it to follow. Okay. Related to that, let's go ahead and put in another wall over here. Okay, let's make this one taller. Let's make this one 40 feet. Okay, so I've got another wall over here. If I've got a situation where I've got, you know, some curtain wall in the middle of that, one of my options in my type parameters for my curtain walls is to automatically embed. Okay, so if I draw this curtain wall and pick along the center line of that wall, it's going to automatically cut that out of that wall. Okay, and then I can use same tool I used on this. Oops. I can edit the profile of this. So if I really want my curtain wall to do that, and it's going to give me a warning here that it's changing some mullions because I've changed my curtain wall, and I'm just going to let it do that. So I can change the shape of that curtain wall. Okay. Anything else? Did someone have a question up there? Or? We good? Yeah, till 1 o'clock, yeah.
The room will be closed, the doors are going to be locked. You like to use your visitors, you can do that.
There's something up with mine, I'm not sure what it is, but when I go to open up a new file, I can't choose like either a construction or architecture or any other.
Okay.
All it does is say none, and then when I try to add doors or windows, it says that there are no, there's no families in the program.
Okay. So when you create a new project, does it give you anything right here?
No, it's just none.
None. Okay. And when you hit browse,
Nothing pops up.
it doesn't take you anywhere.
It like this pops up, but I can't do it to open up
There's
any.
no templates or anything. Okay. So the RTE file is a template file. Okay. It should it should by default automatically download that content and install it when you install Revit.
Okay.
Okay. You may rerun the install and see if it will give you an option to just install the content.
Okay.
You may get one of your buddies to pop a USB drive into his computer and just copy the templates
And just send them over. That's fine.
so that you can use them.
All right.
Okay. Same thing with the content. If you go to put, let's see, I'm gonna put a plumbing fixture in because I know there's one loading. You get a message similar to that.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Would you like to load one now? Yes. Okay. It should take you to this U.S. Imperial Library that should install. It sounds like either you didn't have an internet connect. I think it downloads it still. It sounds like you didn't have a connection or you opted out of the download during the install. But it should install this, and then you've got all the out of the box
Like
content.
under Imperial, none of them are there. Like I was looking for
Just
a while,
empty.
and they're all under Metric, and after that, they won't load anywhere from there. So
Yeah.
Do you think-
I would try and rerun the install and see if
Reinstall
you
it?
can just download the Imperial content.
okay. All right. Thank you.
All right. Yeah.
I'm going to go downstairs and have lunch. Eat the lunch and drop them all. Save money. Okay. But thanks. Comfy chair. There's just so much to learn. So how many weeks should this run? This course?
Well, when you do somebody that does that, do that anymore, sort of like stay by and get a lunch or whatever.
That would make more sense. Because I,
It's the area represented, engineers are hands-on.
what do you say? Where you're going.
It'd be nice to have some work done.
I'm not familiar with this at all, because I'm not an architect. But I do use Photoshop and every product all the time, and it seems a lot like it in the things that you stack on top of things. And there's as much complication as you want. And it's hard to get things done that you want to do without becoming convoluted and. Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Because you started to get kind of questions, and a couple hours later, oh, but, yeah. I see some real pluses for what we're going to do that I hadn't seen before, so that's why I'm going to do. I don't intend to be documents. But I do think now I can look at the materials better and say, this needs to be made on this one does. This does not ignore this one. So I think in the long run, this will be really helpful.